this bigger, larger, more grand Srila Prabhupada in the temple is definitely more intimidating, and yeah, I mean, he's so here. I just don't totally always know how to be around such a pure person, such a glorious person, and all I can think is the person, that I feel so connected to, Srila Prabhupada, is the most important person to him, and that's my connection to him. And so it's really important to me. He's really important to me. And I know that later in my devotional years, I'll become more and more attracted to his teachings, I hope. And I will be able to take more personal advantage of what he's given all of us. I mean, so much, and I've learned so little. So I have a really, really exciting life ahead of me because of Srila Prabhupada. And yeah, I've been actually more reflecting on that Murti once again, the little one. I've been praying that one day Srila Prabhupada will come and bless my home, my preaching center in Raleigh. I see that a lot of the students are like coming along, and yesterday I was reflecting on Srila Prabhupada, knowing that today was today, and yesterday a bunch of the students came here for the first time, and we had a little bit of a dance party in here, and the deities weren't out, and Srila Prabhupada was the only one to witness it, and it was really, really sweet, and I felt like this is his movement, I just had that realization, this is his movement. And yeah, I hope that he continues to bless us and outreach, and so they're able to give some Krishna, some bhakti to others, and that they'll take it. That's really, really, it's really special. So thank you for my service. Thank you to my Gurudev and to Srila Prabhupada for my service.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So there'll be some time after Bir Krishna Maharaj gives his talk, which he's going to start momentarily, for more offerings to about 6 o'clock. So there'll be plenty of time, if you haven't yet spoken, to speak. Haribo.
Okay, now it's working. Okay, so first I'm going to very quickly chant the prayers of the departed Vaishnavas without cartels, without an instrument. And then I'm going to speak a little bit about Srila Prabhupada's departure, and I'm going to try to keep it short because I want to give opportunity to all the nice devotees, especially our young folks, to say something about their connection with Srila Prabhupada. Jehanilo Premadana Korana Prajur Hena Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Kamorat Sarupa Rupa Kasanatan Kadasahu Raghunatha Patita Bhagavan Kahamura Bhatta Juga Kakaviras Ekakale Kotagela Goranataras Pashane Kutivo Mata Anale Pashivo Goranga Gunera Nede Kota Gele Pabo Se Sabha Sangira Sange Jikoilo Vilas Se Sangana Payakande Narotamodas Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. So I'm going to read the translation to this poem. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where is such a personality as Srinivasa Acharya God? Where my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottamadas simply weeps. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shagananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigarvena Maha. So today we are commemorating the disappearance day of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. And for those of you who were in the movement at that particular time, you will remember exactly where you were, what you were doing when you heard the news that Prabhupada had left this world. And so I was in Los Angeles in the temple room, and I was asked by the temple president to lock all the doors, not let anyone out after the morning program. And I was told, keep everybody in the temple room. And then the announcement was made, and everybody basically collapsed on the floor. And for the next week or so, everybody was intensely crying. And Prabhupada said this is the proper mood to have when the spiritual master leaves the planet. One should lament. Of course, if you want to read more about this, you could consult the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about the story of Paranjana. So Srila Prabhupada's departure is not the same or in any way equated, similar, parallel with the departure of an ordinary person. For example, let's just take my relationship with Srila Prabhupada. My relationship, of course, is that I am Prabhupada's son. So, generally, if one has a father and the father passes away, one has to perform different ceremonies for the good of the father, right? Pinda. That's why the son is called Putra and the daughter is called Putri. That means she who helps or saves the father, or he who saves the father. But in this case, sort of the roles are reversed. If you think about it, that Srila Prabhupada, being my father, has left this world, but he saves his son, which is the opposite of the normal situation, isn't it? Think about it. It's quite remarkable. So we don't do Pinda for Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is praying for us, even though he's not physically present. Try to remember the association with Srila Prabhupada, association with great pure devotees, association with Krishna is not dependent upon material means. And the blessings, not just association, that's just like a neutral word, but the blessings that one can get from a great personality have nothing to do with the physical presence. Of course, when the physical presence is there, yes, obviously that's called vapu. We're well acquainted with that term. Then one wants to take that physical presence, one wants to touch the feet of the great personality like that, Srila Prabhupada. But there is no lack when the spiritual master or the great personality, pure devotee, Nitya Siddha devotee Srila Prabhupada leaves, because one can always have his association, and that association is through words, through sound vibration, through hearing about his example, to hearing about his pastimes, his activities. I know many people who have not physically met Prabhupada, and they dream about Prabhupada at night. Prabhupada comes to them and helps them and gives them some good instruction at night. So in dreams, especially through his books, through his writings. So if one wants to make spiritual advancement, one needs to take the association of great pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. There's no other way. And I'm going to read in this regard, because this morning we heard from Jad Bharat's and King Rahugana's interactions, and I was inspired because Drishta Prabhu read one verse, and there's another verse that really touched my heart as far as the understanding and dependence we have on Srila Prabhupada is concerned. And this is, of course, a famous verse, 5:12:12 from Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this verse, let me just quote the verse. Rahuganaita tapasana yati nachezya nirbad grahad bhava nachandasa naiva jalagni suryar bana mahatpada rajobhishekam. And Prabhupada translates this, and this is Jad Bharata speaking to King Rahugana. Jad Bharata is the second incarnation of Bharat Maharaj, who at this time has learned his lesson from becoming a deer. And he's speaking the highest truth, the highest methodology, speaking about the highest methodology of connecting with the Absolute. He says, my dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing brahmachari life, simply following the rules and regulations of household life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in winter by keeping oneself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. And there's some more quotes from Prabhupada that I wanted to read in this particular context. And also, I wanted to speak about my own experience of when I first came in contact with Prabhupada. It was through his Vani. I was, well, I guess a university student, and I didn't know what to do with my life. And somehow or other, I turned on the radio. Not somehow or other, I usually turned on the radio. I turned on the radio, and I heard Prabhupada chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This was from his Happening album. And when I heard his chanting, I immediately became enthralled. I didn't know who was chanting. I didn't know the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. I didn't even know anything about Krishna consciousness. I didn't know anything about anything. All I knew was my false identification that I was a student and I wanted to be materially successful. And so when I heard the chanting, I just thought, wow, what is this? I must record it. So I stayed up all night long waiting for them to play the same song, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because I didn't know who chanted, I didn't know where to get the album. Eventually I did get the album, and I recorded it. And then my whole life changed. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi. Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Just by a moment's instant association with Prabhupada, my whole life changed. And it wasn't physical association with Srila Prabhupada. It was simply a recording. Of course, you can't say simply. It was a recording on the radio. And that was enough to bring me to Krishna consciousness. Of course, to convince me to move in the temple, that took Prabhupada's physical association. Because that was a tough one. But anyway, but to practice Krishna consciousness, to become an aspiring Vaishnava, that simply was Prabhupada's Vani. So all of you have that opportunity to associate with Prabhupada in that same way. And Prabhupada, let me read a few quotes that just verifies this from Srila Prabhupada's own letters. Prabhupada said, I do not factually feel any separation. This is from a letter. I'm not going to give you the citation. From my spiritual master because I'm trying to serve him according to my desire. That should be our motto. That will be our constant association, Prabhupada says. If you feel strongly about my absence, you may place my picture in my sitting place. That will be a source of inspiration for you. Here's some more quotes. As you are feeling my absence, so I am feeling for you. So Prabhupada is also feeling our absence. But we are all happy on account of Krishna consciousness, either here or there. May Krishna join us always in his transcendental service. Physical presence is not essential. Therefore, presence by message or hearing is real touch. Lord Krishna is present by his message, which was delivered 5,000 years ago. We feel always the presence of our past acharyas simply by the innumerable instructions. I hope you will understand me right and do the needful. I am anxious to come there and see the temple, along with all my students there who are carrying out so nicely even in my absence. But you must know that I am always with you all, so long as you are executing Krishna consciousness. That's the operative phrase, so long as you are actually executing Krishna consciousness. So we should all work together for satisfying Lord Krishna, and in that way the feelings of separation will transform into transcendental bliss. Another letter. You write to say, I really miss Swamiji. This is the early days, of course. They called Prabhupada Swamiji. And my God Brothers Association so much, but I may remind you that I'm always with you. So wherever I am there, you are there, all your God Brothers are there. In other words, the whole society. Please remember always the humble teachings that you have received from me, and that will make you always associated with me and your other God Brothers. And finally, one more. I am so glad to learn the New York devotees are all feeling my separation, and you are feeling also. This is very blissful. In the transcendental platform, actually separation is more relishable than meeting. But either separation or meeting, the state is always absolute. Actually, in the spiritual platform, there is no separation, but it is a different stage of ras. So it's a different mood than actually physical meeting. But it's a rus, it's a taste, it's a relationship. So everyone here has that ability to associate directly with Srila Prabhupada by serving his movement, by chanting the holy names, by reading his books, by serving his servants, not only Prabhupada's disciples, but the disciples of the disciples. Like we say, the more humble position you take, the more you become recognized by Krishna. In other words, it's better to serve the servant of the servant than to serve the servant. It's better to serve the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant than to serve the servant. Because, as Lord Chaitanya teaches, Trinadapi sunichena torayava sihishnana amanina manadena kirtiniya sarare. So this is the mood that we should have. That we are all, no matter whether we are Prabhupada disciples, initiated Prabhupada disciples, because you are all Prabhupada disciples in a real sense. But whether initiated by Prabhupada, initiated by one of his one of his disciples, or initiated by a disciple of a disciple, we are all connected. And we are all connected through his divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. There is no loss. In one sense, Prabhupada said, the grandfather spiritual master is more kind than the actual spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada is very, very, very kind to all of you. Please take shelter of him. Thank you very much. So we'll continue with our, I don't want to speak too long because we want to give opportunities for everybody who wants to speak today. Srila
Krishna Maharaj for his wonderful talk, and we'll continue with our offerings now. I'm going to speak just for a few minutes, and then we'll find some other souls to give their offerings. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Budale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminita Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirasesa Shunyavadi Prasashadeshtarni. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for initiating me some 46 years ago. I was certainly not qualified, but you came into my life and completely transformed it in a way which could never have been understood at that time. You, in your Mukundamala Stotra, first verse, a comment you make, and you speak about the zero men of the world, and that we're all zero men. And he says, and then you said, but if you add the one, that's Krishna, you said the Krishna one, then that zero becomes 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, etc. And Srila Prabhupada, you're the one who brought the one, so our lives weren't zero. And it's by your mercy that we are here. And as Bir Krishna Maharaj just said, your mercy is even greater for your grandkids, grandchildren. We're so very fortunate to have some time with you and to see you and to hear from you and to be able to imbibe just the impressions of your association. The one longest period of association I had with you, you didn't even speak in English. We had gone in to see you in Mayapur, a few of us. One sannyasi friend of mine, he'd just taken sannyas, said, let's go see Srila Prabhupada. And we sat down, and I was only like 6 feet from you. And you began to speak when this young Bengali couple came in, who you must have known from somewhere else, and you started speaking very animatedly with them. And as we were about to leave, you said, no, sit down. It is beneficial. And it was, because for about 10 minutes, I could just look at you. I couldn't understand what you were saying, but I could just look at you and see your face and see your smile and see your gestures, and they were impressed in my heart. So I thank you, Srila Prabhupada, from the bottom of my heart. And I know that you've given us all a chance to once again, one day, someday, associate with you and Shri Shri Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. And until those days come, that day comes, we are just going to continue serving because that's what you want, to spread your mercy everywhere around the world. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lochan Prabhu?
O Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Srinivadi Pachadade Satarne. Out of your infinite mercy, Srila Prabhupada, you gave me Harinam initiation into the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya and opened up for me a vast arena of transcendental knowledge, transcendental personalities, and transcendental experience that I never knew existed. That initiation was my personal ticket to begin on the path of sadhana bhakti, which if I followed it seriously, could lead me to the ultimate goal of human life, Krishna Prema, which would not only liberate me from the bonds of this world of birth and death, but would render me qualified to enter into the pastimes of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna in the holy land of Vrindavan. As the years passed since my initiation, there were many obstacles to my progress due to my many anarthas. But your instructions stayed with me, and I always remember your words. Just give one life to Krishna. You have given so many to Maya. So here it is, 2021, and I have even deeper faith in your words now. I see no other goal worthy of my time and interest besides that of Shravanam and Kirtanam and service to the Vaishnavas. The Lord has recently enabled me to fend off a serious threat to my longevity